So tonight starts the NCAA football championship games, which is a big thing when it comes to the CFP, but also a big thing when it comes to the draft, because this is your chance to watch players in an environment that is kind of like a playoff game where it's win or you've completely screwed yourself over in some type of situation. So in today's video, I was going to go ahead and talk about each game, but I feel like that this video would make more sense to everyone through an NFL standpoint and in a college standpoint by going over one player on every team, offensively or defensively, that I think is going to have the biggest impact in each game for each team. As always, leave a like down below if you enjoy this. Comment down below your favorite player that I have mentioned and any other players you think I did not mention. Obviously, for teams like Georgia and Alabama, there's going to be many names that I can throw out there. Now, one thing I will say is that each player is technically draft eligible except for a couple due to the fact that, you know, some players are still in their sophomore year, and I don't have a freshman. I would have had a freshman on this list, but I do have a sophomore on this list and a couple juniors and seniors, so let's get into it. So first up, we have our first game, which is Western Kentucky going up against University of Texas San Antonio. And for Western Kentucky, I'm going with their quarterback, Bailey Zappi. He's a senior. This season, he had the most passing yards in 4,968, and he had the most touchdowns in 52 passing touchdowns with 9 interceptions and a QBR of 76.5. Now, of course, Western Kentucky is a team that not many people pay attention to because this is the Conference USA conference. But I say that if you have a chance to watch this game tonight, I recommend that you do. Bailey Zapp looks like a quarterback that could turn into something in the NFL as an extraordinary backup. His arm talent is way over average, and he even has a little bit of ability to get outside the pocket here and there. As much as it doesn't show in a statistical way about him getting out of the pocket with him not rushing much, he has been known to get out of the pocket enough to run. He's not like a Joe Burrow, Taysom Hill kind of person, and he's definitely not like Lamar Jackson. I think the best comparison to him is Mac Jones. Whether you want to call me crazy or not, it's Mac Jones. He can get out of the pocket enough. With 42 attempts, he only had 17 yards and 3 touchdowns, which isn't insane. But you also correspond it with how he did at Houston Baptist University a couple years ago, where he had one season where he had 118 attempts for 170 yards and a touchdown, including a 68-yard run. He's not someone that can give you anything too big, but he'll give you enough to get you the yardage needed. And now we have for the University of Texas San Antonio, I think there's only one option you should go with, and that's their running back, Sincere McCormick, the junior from Converse. He's 5'9", 205 pounds. He's an absolute star when it comes to the running back position. I don't understand why we don't talk about this guy enough. If you don't know, UTSA was ranked just last week at number 22. And I actually got to catch a little bit of the UTSA game, and I will say that Sincere McCormick has turned into one of my favorite running backs. He has less yards than he did last year, but of course yards don't mean everything. But he is someone that can be elusive. He's got speed, and he's got the hands to be a receiving back as well. He doesn't get as many targets though, but he does have the hands to be a receiving back as well. Do I think he's going to get drafted? I do not know, because you never know with these drafts. But I kind of expect him to ball out in this UTSA game. I'm thinking over 100 yards rushing, maybe 150 for like a touchdown or two. But this is the guy you should be looking out for in the UTSA game. And next up, we go to the Oregon-Utah game. Now, I will say one thing I will say is that Oregon, I could go with somebody like Anthony Brown, but I'm going to go with players that I don't think are much known. So I'm going to go with a receiver here, and that is receiver Chris Hudson. He's a freshman, so I do have a freshman on the list. He is a freshman, and this is why I'm saying Chris Hudson. Didn't get much playing time this year due to the fact that he got into a little bit of trouble throughout the season with the head coach of Oregon based off of a taunting penalty. But I will say Chris Hudson has some of the best hands I've ever seen in my life. Only 24 catches this year for 358 yards, but he has hands that remind me of Jamar Chase, those kind of hands. Cooper Kupp. the kind of hands where he'll make a catch no matter what if the receiver throw to him. Now, of course, Oregon does have Devin Williams, who's kind of the better receiver, but I think Chris Huss is going to take over that spot for Oregon, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he made a couple good catches in this game. And for Utah, of course, the obvious choice is Devin Lloyd, the linebacker, but I'm going to go with somebody that I feel like is not getting talked about enough on the defensive side, and that is the brother of Penei Sewell, Nafai Sewell. He's a linebacker. He's in his junior year, and he is a monster, and I don't care what anyone says. Now, of course, defensively, if you look at statistical-wise, 46 solo tackles, 77 total tackles, and an interception, it doesn't look like an absolute beast. He's mostly either put on a rush, or he's mostly put into a kind of held onto the tight end kind of thing. And of course, when it comes to Nafai Sewell, what his best thing is that he can get to the quarterback. He won't be getting there fast enough for a sack, but he will get there fast enough to put the pressure on the quarterback. After watching that game against Oregon just a few weeks ago, and he put a lot of pressure on Anthony Brown in that game. So Nafai Sewell is going to be a star. I wouldn't be surprised if he was drafted in like the 3rd or 4th round due to the fact that he is Penei Sewell's brother as well. Next up, we have Baylor versus Oklahoma State. And, of course, Baylor, I could go with the obvious choice and go with Jerry Bohannon or Abram Smith. But I'm going to go over the receiver in R.J. Sneed, who is a senior. He had 45 catches for 555 yards and 2 touchdowns. But this is another dude that when he gets targets, he makes the catches. Now, of course, Baylor is a team that is a decently passing team. But they mostly put their stuff in the hands of running back Abram Smith and Trested Ebner, with Jerry Bohannon having a 64% completion as well. But I think R.J. Sneed is someone that could break out in this game and can also break out in the Senior Bowl if he gets invited. But great hands, great agility, great route runner too. I don't think he's talked about enough, honestly, as a top receiver. Do I think he's top 5? No. Do I think he's arguably top 10? I think you could put him in the top 10, arguably at like 9 or 10. But R.J. Sneed is my player for Baylor. And for Oklahoma State, once again, I could go with the easy picks and go with Spencer Sanders or Jalen Warren, Tay Martin. But we're actually going to go to the defensive side and go with a cornerback or a safety in Colby Harvey Peel. He is a senior from College Station, Texas. Landon Collins. I think this dude is Landon Collins. I don't know why he is not talked about enough. Now, if you remember Landon Collins at Alabama, a great defensive safety, but I think that he's not talked about enough. He does have the 3 interceptions, and he has 10 total in his career. But this is why I don't think he's talked enough, because he's never thrown to. Colby Harvey Peel is just not getting anyone thrown to him. You look on how he plays, I believe he plays the free safety position, so the left side safety. He does not get many throws to him towards his way. They try to throw away from him because he's good at what he does at what he does. He can get you 5, 6, 7 incompletions because he's locking down that corner. Or, I'm sorry, that receiver. So that's my player for the Oklahoma State. The MAC, I'm going to skip one because I haven't watched enough of them, and I don't want to give anything bad. And when it comes to the Mountain West, I can actually do this one because I actually have one for both players, for both teams. So the MAC, I'm going to skip over for now. But for the Utah State, I'm going to go with the obvious here because there's really no one else to talk about. It's Devin Tompkins, the senior from Fort Myers, Florida. 87 catches, 1,543 yards, 9 touchdowns. This dude is a top receiver. This is a guy that I put in my top 15, and he's barely in the top 15 because I want to put him in the top 10. Devin Tompkins is only 5'8", and he's 155 pounds. He's Tyreek Hill. He's got the speed. He's got the agility. I wish they ran more end-arounds with him, honestly. Devin Tompkins plays like Tyreek Hill in college. I think Devin Tompkins can be a big steal in this upcoming draft. And for San Diego State, as much as I want to go in the obvious in Greg Bell or Lucas Johnson, I'm going to go with another quarterback that I think should start, and that's Jordan Brookshire, the senior from Santa Rosa, California. They've kind of given the reins to Lucas Johnson, who is a junior, I want to say. Junior or sophomore? He's also a senior. So they've kind of shared it back and forth. I think Jordan Brookshire should be the starter. From what I've seen in the attempts he actually does get, he is much more efficient than Lucas Johnson. He won't give you the running that Lucas Johnson does, but Jordan Brookshire is much more efficient on the passing, much more accurate, has much better throw power, or arm strength, I guess I should be saying. So I think Jordan Brookshire should be the breakout. I think he should start in that game, but they're probably going to go with Lucas Johnson anyway. I'm skipping the Sun Belt. I haven't watched enough of the Sun Belt to make any decisions. The only guy I could say is Corey Xavier Sutton from Appalachian State, but he's kind of like a big deal there, so I'm not even going to mention him. That does bring us to the SEC championship between Georgia and Alabama. Georgia, there's so many names I can go with, but I'm going to go with a name that I feel like needs to be talked about more on the defensive side. And that is No. Where is he? There he is. That is a linebacker, Robert Beal Jr. He's a senior from Norcross, Georgia. Here's why. He doesn't get as much playing time as he should, in my opinion. Of course, Georgia just have the best defensive team, and they have much good linebackers like Channing Tindall and Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Nolan Smith. Well, Adam Anderson's not playing right now due to allegations. But Robert Beal Jr. is a guy who I think can be a very good linebacker if he's just given the chance. He has not many snaps played, and he already has 4.5 sacks. I believe he leads the team in sacks. He reminds me of Micah Parsons, honestly. He'll get outside quickly enough to where he has the outside room, where he just blows past defenders. I think Robert Beal Jr. is a very underrated linebacker. And when it comes to Alabama, of course, there are so many ways I can go with this. Between Jamison Williams, Bryce Young, Brian Robinson Jr. But I'm going to go with another receiver that I feel like is well known, but I feel like he's just too good not to talk about, and that's John Mechie. John Mechie, of course, one of the 1,000-yard receivers on that team, because Alabama does like to throw that ball. I think he is a top 7 wide receiver heading into this draft, and I think he's like number 6. I'd put him. He's one of the best receivers in this draft is what I'm trying to say. And this draft is like receiver heavy, so that's kind of saying something. But just from what I've seen this year and last year, John Mechie looks like an absolute star. If he goes to the right system, he can go anywhere from the wide receiver number 1 to a slot receiver. Great hands, great agility, great route runner. Has so much great ability to stay in bounds. There's been a lot of plays where he's made a catch and had to like tiptoe to stay in bounds. John Mechie is somebody to look out for. When it comes to the AAC conference game, we have Houston, and I'm going to go with a semi-obvious pick, and that's Nathaniel Dell. Wide receiver, sophomore from Daytona Beach, Florida. He is an absolute God-given talent star. I think this is a guy that I think could be in a top 10 receiver thing for next year. A top 10 receiver list. The last time that he has 3 receiving touchdowns against AP top 25 teams. And I know it doesn't say much because he has 11 total. But the last time these two played in Cincinnati versus Houston, let me just break down what happened here. Wait a minute, these guys didn't play. It was against SMU. When he played SMU, he had 9 catches for 165 yards and 3 touchdowns. And SMU does not have that bad of a defense. Now, of course, the only issue I have with him is that I think he's going to be covered by Ahmed Gardner, who has not given up a touchdown in his entire college career and has been one of the best cornerbacks in this draft. So that's the only issue I have with it, but I feel like Nathaniel Dell will get the first touchdown against Ahmed Gardner this season. And when it comes to Cincinnati, of course, I could go with many people like Ahmed Gardner. I could go with Desmond Ridder, Jerome Ford. But I'm going to go with the receiver, who I feel like needs to be talked about more. Tyler Scott, the sophomore from Norton, Ohio. He has been used so efficiently this year as a punt returner, a kick returner, and a receiver. And watching him play is insane. This is another guy who I think could have Tyreek Hill vibes, but I'm kind of getting Cole Beasley from him. And I'm talking Bills Cole Beasley, not Dallas Cole Beasley. Tyler Scott is a receiver that I think could absolutely blow up in this game and use that speed, agility, and elusiveness to get off, and he's a good route runner too. I think he'll be just fine in this game, and will be the breakout star of that game. Michigan versus Iowa. Michigan, I would love to go with the obvious in Aiden Hutchinson, but I feel like it's got to be Hassan Haskins after what he did to the Buckeyes last week. We got to talk about him a little bit more. I already liked him before, even though I'm not supposed to like Michigan players, but I like the senior from St. Louis. St. Louis. I like Hassan Haskins. I didn't like what he did to us last week, but I like Hassan Haskins. Elusive, great hands as well. Can find the open hole, break tackles. He's got the strength. I think that this guy can be a great running back in the league. I kind of like him as like a J.K. Dobbins kind of running back. This is his senior season, so of course he will be going into the draft this year, and I think he's going to get overlooked by people like Breece Hall and Bryce Robinson Jr. And then for Iowa, I'm going to go with the semi-obvious because Iowa does not really have anyone that interests me, and that's going to be the defensive linebacker in Jack Campbell, the junior from Cedar Falls. A tackling machine. He kind of plays like Bobby Wagner. Nothing gets by him. Nothing gets by him when it comes to running backs. 121 total tackles. He's always assistant tackles. He's forced to fumble. He has a pick 6. I think Jack Campbell is going to grab at least 7 tackles in total against Cincinnati. Against Michigan. Jack Campbell's just one of the best linebackers in college football, and I don't know why he's not being talked about enough. For the ACC, which is the last game, Pittsburgh, we're going to go with an obvious one. And the only reason I'm going with him is because I need to owe him an apology, and that's Jordan Addison. And the reason I need to owe him an apology is he's up for the Blindenkoff Award, which is the best college wide receiver in college football. And I thought he didn't deserve to be there, and then I saw him play and was like, oh yeah, he deserves to be there. He is from Frederick, Maryland, though, which is pretty cool. But he is a sophomore as well. He is a ball hog machine, and what I mean by that is he catches anything. He's got sticky hands is what I'm trying to say. Pause. But he's got the hands that will catch the ball easily. You hit him in the chest or hit him in the hands, he's gonna make that grab is what I'm trying to say. So that's my big thing about him. Also, he's someone that could use on an end around. He reminds me a lot of Jalen Reagor at TCU. Somebody that barely drops the ball and has the speed to drive up that sideline and have plenty of room to run. For Wake Forest, I'm going to go with a quarterback who I think needs to be talked about a little bit more. And I'm going to give an honorable mention for the first time to A.T. Perry, but I got to talk about Sam Hartman. I think everyone knows the name Sam Hartman from the fact that he was on QB1 on the same season as Spencer Rattler, I believe, or maybe it was the season after. He might have been on the season after. But went to sophomore from Charlotte, North Carolina. He is a absolute stud. I don't know why he's not being talked about enough. He's got one more year of college at least. Each year he's been the starter. He's been a stud. And I understand that the interceptions are very at 10, but you look at it back, it's like 4 or 5 of them are his fault. It's like half of them are his fault. But I think that Sam Hartman's going to come out, absolutely show what he's made of. And I don't know if Wake Forest beats Pittsburgh, but I think Pittsburgh's going to have their money worked out for them. And with that being said, that's the video. I appreciate you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe as always. We are so close to 100 total subscribers. Let me know your breakout players going into these games, and follow the socials down below. We will be live on Twitch tonight for Oregon versus Utah. Sidecasting, always fun to do. And I will see you all on Saturday's video, which is going to be a fun one. With that being said, I'll see y'all later. Peace.